You know what I haven't had to do in a while? Sleep. Or make a resume. But in fact, it's not like necessarily a good thing because I really enjoyed making resumes. So that's why today I'm gonna walk you through what I did in the beginning and how that improved and how just by experience and all the other tips and tricks that I gained by stalking other people on LinkedIn, all my heroes, all the people that I looked up to, and learning how to better that resume, portfolio, curriculum vitae, and demo reel. Let's look for the oldest one that I have. Maybe I did one back when I was homeschooled or going to a community college. I have no idea, but this is the one that I ended up using, so let's check it out. So let's jump into the first resume. Occupational objective. My aim is to render quality service. And utilize my many talents for good in the media. Boy, that's actually rather accurate for today. I put a couple of things in my skills and talents there, and then I put some references at the end. So let me tell you, do not put references on your resume. Those should only be given out if you really need someone to speak highly about you, because frankly, you may not always be in touch with that person. That person may not always really remember you, or that person might just be having a bad day. And oftentimes, when you're applying for a certain type of job, you want a specific kind of person to refer them to if they do ask for references. My previous work experience, this is where it gets interesting. And starting from the bottom here, let's take a look. The Baltic Mission. Yes, I served a full-time mission for the LDS Church in the countries of Latvia, Lithuania, and Finland, where I gained proficiency in Latvian. Alright, so that's what happened to me in those 2 years. And then this one, D&D Home Refurbishing. This is actually just made up of 2 to 3 people, really just one person. But this is when I started adding in those little phrases that I saw on my wife's resume where she said things like, prior to my tenure at... And I don't mean to make fun of the way I wrote my original resume. This is where I actually got interested in it. This is where it really started to make sense that it was possible to make it sound better than it was, which is marketing. Ooh, a little typo in my home state. Yikes. And then the next one here, I got extra bullet points, which is starting to mean I'm getting serious here. My career is really kicking off. My job title was a scheduling agent, technical support, reports overseer, contact between the company and its contractors. So I worked in customer service. My duties entailed. Alright, so I'm starting to list my duties. This was a great way to show what I was up to while I was working there. I'm beginning to piggyback on other things and other skills in the past. You see, Microsoft Excel is something that I learned how to do when I was at Penn Highlands Community College. In one of my earlier resumes, I actually mentioned that I was on the dean's list at this community college and that I studied Microsoft Office, and it's true, that's where I really picked up how to use Microsoft Excel, which I've gotten fairly proficient at. So when I got this next job at the On-the-Chur accounting department, I actually was able to show off that I knew some Microsoft Excel, which is what an accounting department really appreciates, right? Now, so let's look at my title here. Collections specialist. Well, so I worked in the collections department, which was like a sub-department that didn't get free lunches on Fridays in that same accounting department. It was kind of sad. It was kind of, we were the outcasts. We were the island of misfit toys, you might say. But it was because of the things that I learned in my community college that enabled me to mention it in my platinum protection work. And then after that, that's what got me this job at On-the-Chur. While I was there, duties entailed researching invoice processing progress of and communicating with major corporations around the world, finding methods of persuasion to receive remittance from said large companies, and bending Microsoft Office to my needs. I see, that's where I was getting a little too creative, I think. But you can see little bits and pieces where I was learning how to use it, how to wordsmith some of my experience to make it sound like it was something extra special. After I left On-the-Chur, it actually was absorbed, like All Your Base R belong to us by Adobe Systems. I didn't really work for Adobe, but interestingly enough, it all kind of comes together because the marketing department at Omniture, there was a guy there who was really good at branding things with motion graphics all around the building. This guy was the one who introduced me to After Effects. I'd never heard of it before. So the examples that he showed me were just the things that I needed to make me obsessed that summer. But I was crazy about After Effects. I'd say way too crazy. And so I'd spend like all this time. I bought books. I was actually reading through books to learn how to use this. Yes, I was using the internet. YouTube didn't have a whole lot of tutorials, but Andrew Kramer did have videocopilot.net, which is where I picked up all my initial skills in After Effects. Thank you, Andrew Kramer. You have made me who I am. We justified getting a new computer, a new camera, and that whole suite so that both my wife and I could learn how to use all those different applications in there. She learned how to use a lot of the web design, a lot of the graphic design there. We had this incredible feeling of excitement about this idea of prospects, and that was our theme for like the first good year of our marriage. It was like, oh, think about the prospects, think about what we could do, think about how wonderful it would be. And I actually did have incredible people to work with and work around, but I realized after a long time that I was rather immature back then. I could have probably progressed in each of those places that I worked at if I just understood what employers were really looking for. And that's something that I always think about, not in the sense of I wish I had done this or if only I had done this, because sure, I could have gone that path, but I never would have gotten to this path that I'm on right now. And so I have to say that just this idea of freedom was the most exciting thing. To be able to do our passion, I mentioned here in this, again, filming involvement, it's pointing to, I have a passion in this thing, I'm willing to work harder than ever in this, even though I had worked hard before, even though I had found skills doing other things, I learned other things elsewhere. Now, I never mentioned I wanted to become my own boss because that doesn't look so good on a resume, because resumes are for when you're applying to jobs, right? They don't want you to look like you're going to be rebelling or not taking authority seriously or going off on your own. That's a very threatening thought right there, to think that, boy, we hired this really talented guy or gal and we really want them to stick around, but they're acting like they're capable of doing something far more free than we're allowing them to do. And so the next thing that I put on my resume here is filming involvement, because I didn't necessarily have a job, but I was just trying to show that I could do some stuff. I had a little bit of experience. The next and most recent resume that I will share with you on paper really just comes from a lot of things that I put together on my LinkedIn page, which you're very welcome to go visit right now if you'd like. And the basic structure of each of these experiences has to do with how long I've worked there, what I've accomplished there, what my roles and responsibilities were, where my locations were, which I think is very important still, just because you can show that you are wanted not just locally, you are able and willing and desired all over. And another fun thing that I came up with to put on here were the brands that I worked with. And I split these eventually into two different sections, not just the brands, but the agencies, because a lot of the brands that I worked with were because of the agencies, and so I feel like I had to give credit to the agencies by putting them in their own category, just to show that we do work under other people. Volunteer experience, I did have a little bit of volunteer experience thrown in there, which is nice. My languages, not sure how applicable that is, but it means a lot to me that I was able to learn another language. My education, yes, I got my Bachelor's of Science in film. It actually was a communications degree, but it's so fun to be able to say it was a film degree. In my school, when I received my diploma, it said Bachelor's of Science in film. That's how they printed it, so I'm gonna roll with it. Really, I stopped applying for awards. We started doing the festivals when we had a specific film that we wanted to reach out and try to get in front of people. But the only time I had ever gotten awards for things was back when I worked at a television station and at that little marketing startup company. It was only right before I started my own business that I stopped applying to awards, which, you know, I guess I just never saw the use of it, just because I personally know what goes into gaining an award, and I know it's a great competition to be involved in. If you can tell people and get that in front of a lot of eyeballs or in a lot of ears, then it would be worth it. But truthfully, I never saw the value of continuing to gain awards after I had gotten a certain number of them. And this is where I start mentioning not only what I did or what my responsibilities were, but who I worked with. If it was someone well known, whether it's talent or another producer or a company, I always looked at every opportunity I had, no matter what it was. As you can see, it was always used and potentially could be used as a stepping stone to the next opportunity. And that is the key thing. If I can convey anything, it's that you can take anything that you're doing and utilize it by, you know, a little bit of wordsmithing and by the effort that you put into your work there. For example, when I was at Omniture, one of the things that I put on my resume was the fact that I went and volunteered and made a video, and I gave it to the marketing department. It was an opportunity to do something with my talents and the skills that I was developing. I became my own boss. It only took about 8 years. And truthfully, as I've been doing it over the past 4.5 years, the only thing that I've come to regret is not doing it earlier. And again, I don't want to say that we should regret anything, because all the things that we did led us up to this point. And right now is the best time to start anything you want to do. Right now. Like I said before, I would go and I would see the path that other people took, other people that I really looked up to. And if you want to follow along, please subscribe and follow and like and share these videos, because I genuinely want to help people in the creative industry this year. I could never just sit still knowing that I was able to find some success and not share it with someone else. I really don't understand the kind of attitude that people have when you ask them for advice, or you just say, hey, how's it going? Or hey, what's new in your life? When it's someone that, you know, is more mature, higher level than you are, and they just don't respond. Why can't we all be friends? Why can't we all get along? Why can't we all just share? But I will say that it does help to get out there and do the brave thing, starting today. So here's to 2021.